I'm Ashton from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have back with us Sasha Ivanov, the founder of Waves, as well as Units Network, a newer L2 ecosystem that I'm excited to dive into today. Sasha, welcome back.
Hi, Ashton. Thanks for having me again.
You're very welcome. There's been a lot of discussion around layer twos. From what I understand, Units Network is helping bridge in EVM compatibility. And Waves has been an OG blockchain since coming up on a decade now, and it's still going strong. I would love for you to just start with sort of a picture, paint a picture for people on Waves, how Units Network fits into that, and then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, basically, as you said, Waves is a very old chain, launched in 2016. And now I think we are making a very logical move. We are turning Waves into an ecosystem of interconnected layer twos. So Waves is going to become some kind of like connected layer. It's going to become a layer 1 and even layer 0. It's because it just like brings all those chains together. And those layer 2s actually will be properly decentralized because they're going to be using the consensus guarantees that exist in Waves. And it means that, for example, each layer will be supported not by one sequencer server, as it usually happens in layer 2s, but by multiple validators. So it means that those layers become proper layer 1s, actually. So and I think this is some kind of like end game for layer 2 narrative when you have a very robust basis layer, Ethereum, for example, or maybe Waves, and all like consensus guarantees are established in this layer, and then you use those guarantees, you basically export them to the layers above. And those layers become like properly interconnected, interoperable, and basically, they work on the same security assumptions that the basis layer uses. So this is, in my opinion, is the end game of layer 2 narrative and maybe even like scalability and blockchain for the next decade. So this is what I think Ethereum ecosystem is doing as well. And I just want to like implement this like end game solution faster.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And there's the interoperability. There's also the scalability. I want to talk more about the interoperability because Waves blockchain has been around since 2016. And when you're sort of running your own chain, different from the EVM ecosystem, there's all of the different types of dApps you can get, DEXs, NFTs, all of that kind of stuff. But it's a little bit harder to connect back to other blockchains. And with the growth of layer 2s on Ethereum in the past 2 years, it seems like so many chains have been able to scale and be interoperable of moving assets back and forth. So how big is this for the Waves ecosystem to tie into the huge network effect that Ethereum has built over the last decade?
Yes, of course. As you have network effect, it's something that is very important. And I always mention that as well. When you have like a market leader, usually it's very hard to compete because that market leader gets bigger and bigger, because you have this network effect when leaders attract more users, and yeah, this is how it works. But in certain cases, situation can actually change because for such projects as Ethereum, it's really hard to move fast. And I think there is some niche for competition still in layer 2 narrative and scalability narrative. And let's see how it's going to be like in 5 to 10 years. So I think that in 5 or maybe like maybe in a decade, we will see a totally new crypto ecosystem. Because new narratives will emerge, and it's not set in stone yet. I think it's somehow set in stone for a few more years, and we still wanna try to compete because I think we can move faster. But what will
Hmm.
happen afterwards, nobody knows, I think, because I can see this like some kind of end game for blockchain scalability, more or less
Hmm.
in short to medium run, when you have this layer 2 narrative been executed completely. And we will basically, I think, cover all that we want to have in blockchain space using this like layer 2 narrative. And we will have enough chains to support all the apps for maybe the next decade. We are not there yet, for sure. So I think different projects are moving towards that goal. Ethereum is moving there as well. Maybe we probably won't win, so we won't be like the biggest layer 2 ecosystem. But I think there is still space for everyone,
Hmm.
and we can. Waves has always tried to do something else, so we try to go into like different directions, maybe not so popular directions, not so not so directions that were not like in the mainstream, so to say, so, and I
Hmm.
think this has been our purpose, so we are doing more or less the same. Now we are trying maybe to be more adjusted to the current market narratives, because layer 2 narrative is very big. And
Hmm.
why am I doing this actually? Because I think we don't have any other options for blockchain scalability at the moment. Nobody has come up with
Hmm.
anything better than layer 2 narrative. You have like monolithic blockchains like Solana.
Hmm.
They provide some kind of other direction for scalability, but they're like less decentralized, obviously, because
Yeah.
they have their own advantages, but they're not so decentralized. And you have layer 2 narrative, which basically multiplies your block space by connecting like separate layers to an underlying big robust layer. And this narrative is inevitable, and it has to be like executed fully.
Hmm.
And until we have done that, I think we won't have any new narrative in scalability. So let's do it fast, and then let's see whether we need more blockchains or what we have built is sufficient. So it
Hmm.
might happen that we just don't need any more block space, any more blockchains. So and we don't have any applications besides meme coins. So and in this case, I think Solana would be sufficient.
Hmm. Yeah, no, there's some great points there about the centralization. I've seen the
Yeah.
Solana blockchain have some issues, almost went down a few times, and there's some founding team that just manually turns it back on, not very decentralized. On the scalability side, I'm curious on if there's any quantifiable amount on from the layer 1 blockchain or just the original Waves chain moving to a layer 2, how
Mhm.
much faster or cheaper can it actually get?
It's gonna be very cheap because currently Waves is a very cheap blockchain.
Yeah.
Like transactions cost like less than 1 cent. So the same will apply to those layers built on top. In terms of like throughput, it's gonna be like 1,000 transactions per second, more or less.
Wow.
And it's like you will have your like own proper Ethereum chain, all to yourself, more or less, So because Ethereum can handle maybe, I don't know, 10 million transactions per day. Here you will have a bit more. And it will be like fully compatible with Ethereum, so it's not modified Ethereum, it's Ethereum as it is without any modifications. And I think it's very important because EVM is some kind of like industry standard. So people,
Hmm.
like a lot of coders know Solidity, and in any case, even if Ethereum like isn't so popular, maybe in 10 years, I think we will have EVM and we will have Solidity because this has established itself pretty well. So yes, it's very important to offer products like that where you can launch your own chain in a very fast and efficient way. And this is what we want to do in terms of like our selling proposition. So the goal is to enable a very simple process for launching your own blockchain. So it goes like that. Basically, you make a proposal in the ecosystem DAO, the community votes for you, and your chain is activated like within 3 to 5 days.
Wow.
And you don't need to run your own validators because you basically use the current validator community, and they support and maintain your chain. So you don't need to like maintain your own nodes. And basically you get interconnectivity to all ecosystem chains, and also we have like projects that bridging projects that will connect you to external ecosystems. So basically you can transfer tokens from Ethereum and other chains. So yes, it's some kind of like complete package, you know. So you get your own chain, you get bridging to internal and external ecosystems. You get support from community because there is a DAO. There is the ecosystem DAO that also has treasury funds. 10% of unit token supply goes to the DAO treasury, and DAO participants will be able to decide what to do with those funds. So basically they can distribute some grants or even invest in some projects. So yeah, you have everything. So we want to complete, we want to like create an ecosystem that will be complete in terms of like technical proposition, and also in terms of like internal structure and governance structure. So it has to be self-sustainable because everything is going to be like DAO governed. And I think it's very important. People are like forgetting about like decentralization and DAOs now, you know. And I think this is like, in my opinion, the biggest promise of crypto is decentralized governance. You know, so if we are able to create structures and architectures that can exist basically on their own, so to say, you know, so you have some like governance structure which is self-sustaining, and it has some like checks and balances to prevent abuse. This will be, you know, the most important thing that crypto brings us, you know. So it's nice to be able to launch your own meme coin, but probably understand that it's more or less gambling, and it's a lot of fun probably, you know, but I don't think it's changing the world. And if we can change the world through crypto, I think it will be through decentralized governance that can be implemented only using blockchain technology, because without it, you can't do any kind of like governance independent from centralized actors. And the only chance to create something new in terms of governance is to make it decentralized. So I really believe in it, and I'm trying to implement this idea also in more technical platforms that we are creating, because probably we could launch units without this model, but in my opinion, it's very important to make sure that this ecosystem will exist, even in case something happens to myself, I don't know, or you know, so it has to exist. Like, you know, this situation with Telegram now, probably are following. So basically, Pavel Durov has been arrested, and Tom Price crashed because basically everything depends on one person, you know, in this ecosystem. And if you take this person out, somehow, in some way, you know, the whole ecosystem is jeopardized, you know. So it shouldn't be like that. No, the blockchain is meant to make those things impossible. You know, it doesn't have to depend on one person. It has to depend on the protocol. And if the protocol is stable, you know, so you won't have those situations which we experience now, for example, in a situation with Telegram founder.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I agree with you on the decentralization. To be able to have everything, you know, to have the proper voting structure or governance, you need the blockchain for that. but there's so many different parts to a company that need to be moved into more of a DAO structure that it's like, where do you start? There's so many moving pieces. And I feel like there's a lot of experimentation going on with DAOs right now. I think it's great, but it's tough to make the perfect DAO because I think there still needs to be more experimentation that's done.
Absolutely, and we are trying to do that. So basically, we've been running a new DAO protocol on Waves for 2 years by now. It's like it's not so different from other DAOs, but there is a very important thing that actually makes it different. There is some kind of like accountability for decision-making process. So when there is some KPI set at the DAO launch, and if this KPI is met, decision makers are rewarded. If it's not met, they're like being punished or slashed. Their governance power is being diminished, and basically they basically lose their tokens, and their tokens are burned. So, and it creates some kind of like feedback mechanism. So if you're making good decisions, you get more governance power. If you're like making bad decisions, your governance power is been reduced, and you won't have like a lot of say in what the DAO actually does. So I think this is a very simple improvement, but it changes things considerably. So you have to have some accountability for decision making. And I think we can go from there, and we can implement more models, more checks and balances. And I believe that we can create something sustainable and something that can even be used not only online, but also offline, in some kind of like a real world governance. This is the biggest example. And you have those models in the world now, for example, in Switzerland, have direct democracy. They vote directly for. They don't elect some kind of like deputies or representatives, and they vote directly for legislation. So they basically, there's some kind of law that they can vote for, and the whole population does that. So I think we're going to that direction because people feel that there is a lot of problems with governance, and I don't mean blockchain governance. I mean like real world governance. And the idea that we are developing in blockchain eventually, hopefully, will be used offline in the real world governance.
Yeah, it would be very interesting if the American politics were to switch to blockchain in the next quarter for this upcoming election. But I feel like it might take a few more terms before that happens. But I have seen a lot of growth recently on the DAO side, and companies, starting from scratch with a DAO formation. I feel like maybe it's easier if you're starting the company with a DAO and then building up, rather than having a billion-dollar company and being like, we're going to move everything into a DAO and then trying to decentralize all of the functionality and take away. I think Telegram is a great example. Having the CEO arrested. Now, if that was in a DAO structure, which I know they have some blockchain components, they were probably working on it. But if that was already perfectly set up in a DAO, it wouldn't matter if anybody on the team sort of disappeared or left the job.
Yeah, actually, I think you can run any business as a DAO. If you actually think about it a bit more, you will see a way to shape any business as a DAO. It changes the cash flows. You have those cash flows not going from the bottom to the top. They are like more horizontal. So, and this is a very important change. But actually, if you are ready to give up on like decentralization, because people want to control as much power as they want, they want to control the fund, they want to control everything. I don't know, huge companies like Apple or like Google have billions of dollars in their bank, which they don't even use. For example, I don't know how much money Apple has now in the bank, but like a couple of years ago, they had like $100 billion just staying there. Like they're not using it. They just have it for maybe they will use it in the future, maybe they will need it in the future, so nobody knows what's going to be like in several years. So it's not efficient, so and it's very centralized. And if you take this like structure and make it more flat, make it more like horizontal, basically what really changes is the efficiency. I think it can become even more efficient. You won't have like billionaires in the structure, probably, You'll have like maybe a lot of millionaires, but you won't have like Elon Musk's or, I don't know, Bezos this of the world, But I think it's fine if you're ready to give up on that, if you, if you can live without billionaires. I think a DAO model is something that can make even like mundane businesses, not some kind of sophisticated DAO structures, even like retail and things like offline business more efficient. Because it just changes the governance model, it changes the cash flows, it changes like power structure. And if you're okay with it, if you don't want to be like very famous CEO, and control everything, yeah, actually, this is the way to go.
Yeah, and no, it's fascinating, and I'm curious on how that implementation is going with Units Network. What's the stage of the DAO and the testnet, mainnet? Can people contribute and get involved?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the development is almost done. Only actually the DAO is not on the testnet yet. It's going to be on the testnet, I think, next week. We just use what we have built for our new DAO protocol for Units. This is going to be some kind of fork, which we will use for Units. So it's not going to take too much time. And like next week, we will have the ecosystem DAO on the testnet. In terms of like other things that need to be developed, we are done with development. So we deployed interchain bridging last week. So basically, yes, now we are preparing for the launch, which is about to happen around mid-September. And now the focus is on the marketing. Maybe we are lagging behind in this department somewhat, but now we're finally starting KOL campaign. And it's not so easy now with KOLs because the market is very volatile, and KOLs are not ready to move fast, and it's hard to start those campaigns. But yeah, I think we are actually starting now, and I think we have some time. So there's going to be launches on major centralized exchanges. Also, we will launch on some launch pads. And I'm not going to delay the launch. Maybe we could actually do some more marketing, but I think we'll do it after we have launched, because it's going to be very important to have several chains and several projects launching immediately after the first launch, because the goal is to show that ecosystem is growing, and we need to have more projects in it. So the focus will be maybe not even on the first launch, but on the subsequent launches. So we will try to have projects from different narratives, so that there's going to be like an AI project launching its own AI chain, some kind of like RWA project launching its own chain as well, and so on and so forth. So this is it. Yeah. So maybe we're not make a very spectacular launch of the first chain, but we'll try to compensate for that with the subsequent launches.
Yeah, well, I know that Waves has been through 2 or 3 full 4-year cycles in crypto, and it can make a difference when you make a launch, whether there's a lot of hype in the Bitcoin and the outside world. I feel like 2024 has been a good year for new entrants into the market, with institutions coming in, and with the Bitcoin ETF and now Ethereum. Although right after the launch of Ethereum, we're not seeing a huge appreciation in the price, but I feel like there's a lot of accumulation and long-term thinking, similar to how Waves has been around for many years. What is your level of optimism or pessimism on the market moving into the next quarter and the next year? Do you think that all these new entrants will translate into a hotter market than ever seen before?
It's hard to say. I won't make any predictions now, because I think, so we have to wait a little. We have to see how it goes. I think until the elections in the US, we won't have any kind of clear picture here, also in terms of crypto markets and financial markets in general. So somehow, like, a lot of crypto people think that Trump presidency is going to be good for crypto. I don't know. I think it's a fake narrative, actually. But let's see how it goes. I don't think how I don't understand how it can be beneficial for crypto. Maybe short term, so because people try to manipulate the markets, convincing people that Trump presidency is going to be good. I don't know how it's going to work out. Let's see how it goes. So it's a very volatile time, and I think it's better stay maybe at the sidelines for a while and just observe what's gonna happen, So, and then when we see some kind of clear picture, we can make some predictions, projections, and we can plan, So now I wouldn't care too much about the markets now, because I think what we want to do now, we just want to launch what we wanted to launch, and not be distracted by the current market conditions. Because as I mentioned, for example, KOLs, they're waiting for some kind of good moment to start doing marketing. Not for units, but for we work with some marketing companies, and they're just waiting for a good moment. But that moment may not come at all, So yeah, I think you should try to become more independent and try to push your own thing more. And of course, people want to use those bull runs to their advantage. But I think they won't come again, those bull runs, So at least those bull runs that we had before, because the market has become too fragmented now. You have too many tokens, and it's impossible to pump all those tokens, So it's going to be more like in traditional stock market, where you have some sectors which are pumping, So maybe we will have some AI narrative, which is going to be big, but all other narratives won't be so big, and those tokens will not perform that well. So crypto has become very big, too many tokens, and to expect some kind of alt season, I think is a bit naive now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. I think the best thing for companies and developers that are building is just keep your head down building, to build a great product, and not try to time something. So I'm excited to see the upcoming launch for the mid-September launch that you mentioned. I've already been following along since earlier this year. And is there any other way that people can get involved prior to the mainnet launch, like Incentivized Testnet, or just contributing somehow?
Sure, guys. We still run a testnet campaign, and you can earn some points by helping us test the network. And those points will be converted into Unit0 token once it's launched, so around mid-September. We are going to have more tests in our questing platform this week, I think. So I think it's not too late to start participating and earning some Unit0 tokens. And Unit0 is the token of the first chain in the ecosystem to be launched in mid-September. And Unit0 token is going to be the most important token in the ecosystem, because it's also going to serve as the governance token of the whole ecosystem. And the idea here is if you have Unit Zero, you can vote for new launches, for new projects, and those projects can basically incentivize the process. Basically, they can distribute some tokens to the DAO members, to the validators, and it means that if you have Unit Zero token, you will eventually get more tokens in the ecosystem. So it creates a kind of like chain of incentives. So yes, we also run a TVL campaign, but only for Waves token. Maybe we will do also stable coins, but I'm not so sure that it's a good moment to do that. So maybe we will even do without. So if you have Waves, or maybe if you're interested in Waves, you can stake some Waves in corresponding smart contract and also earn some Unit Zero tokens. Yes, and also we have Zilli campaigns. So if you just don't want to bother with any kind of like tokens or any kind of like financial burden, so to say, you can just do some retweets, and earn some Unit Zero tokens. So in this regard, we're not being very innovative, because I think we have seen several projects doing very efficient retro drop campaigns. Maybe this market is a bit dead right now, so I don't see any big retro drop campaigns happening right now. But I think this model is good, because the idea here is you don't risk your own funds, you don't need to invest, you just need to test the network, or just take some token that you can take back later. So there is no financial risk here, and basically help the project, and the project just rewards you with some tokens, and there's no obligation. I think it's a great model, and I don't like everything that they can see in crypto in terms of marketing, but this approach is good because it's riskless, and it helps the projects, and it also helps the users, because you don't have any risk, but you can earn some tokens basically just by helping the project test their product, which is awesome.
Sounds great. Well, I'm looking forward to the launch, and I can leave a link to the testnet campaigns, the marketing, however else people can get involved. I'll leave a bunch of links in the show notes below. I'm excited to see the growth of the DAO and the mainnet launch, and I know that this is, it's not the grand finale. It's just the beginning of all of the chains that will launch on it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out, and I appreciate all your insights into to Waves, Layer 2s, DAOs, and proper governance structure on how blockchain and decentralized governance will hopefully change the face of all companies in the world. So thank you so much for taking the time, Sasha.
Thank you, Ashton, for having me. Always a pleasure.